Hello there. Today, in this series of land vehicles, I will briefly introduce you to the Dingo 2 ambulance. The safety of soldiers has a special priority in military operations. With the Dingo family, KMW has developed a highly mobile wheeled vehicle that uncompromisingly meets this requirement thanks to its protection concept. In cooperation with the German defense authorities, the Dingo was tested and qualified in accordance with official test conditions. The vehicle impressively demonstrated its outstanding properties in extensive tests against ballistic threats, anti-tank missiles, artillery fragments, and IEDs. The risk of injury to the occupants was reduced beyond the prescribed level. Thus, the Dingo family has a level of protection that has not been achieved by other vehicles in its class. With a safety cell, KMW guarantees direct occupant protection against pressure waves and ballistic threats. A mine-proof seating system prevents the transmission of blast energy to crew members. If you ever see this, you know why. The protection-optimized stowage concept for equipment and personal equipment also protects the occupants from the secondary effects of mine and IED pressure waves. Combat wheels with run-flat rings ensure sufficient residual mobility over 50 kilometers in the event of a destroyed tire casing or a loss of pressure. This ensures that after an attack it's possible to leave the immediate area of danger under one's own power. An integrated NBC, that's nuclear, biological and chemical protection system, also allows safe use in contaminated environments. Probably no other Bundeswehr vehicle has saved as many lives as the Dingo. As an all-protection transport vehicle or ATF, it's particularly in demand on convoy or patrol trips. Due to its relatively small dimensions, narrow and winding streets in built-up areas can also be easily driven on. Its Unimog chassis makes it agile and off-road. Of course, the Dingo is also armored. And exactly this armor can withstand a few kilograms of TNT explosives and light machine gun fire. Its weapon station can be operated under armor protection, although we don't have this one in today's version. Usually the ATF Dingo can be armed with the MG3 machine gun, the 40mm automatic grenade launcher or .50 heavy machine gun, but they didn't do it for today's. The Dingo can accommodate usually up to 8 people, and the Bundeswehr owns more than 500 Dingos in different versions. They are mostly used in the army and in the armed forces base. One of the most important tasks of paramedics is the fastest possible rescue of wounded soldiers on the battlefield, their first aid, and then appropriate medical care. They often risk their own lives under enemy fire. In its various ambulance versions, the Dingo 2 makes a decisive contribution to improving protected casualty transport. And not fighting in this case, that's why no weapons. The ambulance and emergency vehicles based on the Dingo 2 chassis are adapted to the respective customer requirements and reflect the different strategies for rescuing and caring for the wounded. The ambulance vehicles and the other members of the Dingo family have the level of protection and mobility of comparable combat vehicles, both in rough terrain and under difficult combat conditions. In addition, all ambulance and emergency vehicles are designed with a continuous safety cell to facilitate communication between the driver and the medical area to offer the crew in the rear area an orientation option through the large windscreen and in an emergency to climb from one to the other areas that is allowed by this. Equipment features of the Dingo 2 ambulance and emergency vehicles have been presented by the manufacturer. For the ambulance, it is up to 2 wounded people can be transported lying down and given medical care in it. It has a modular conversion kit structure. It's high flexible in the field. It has a simple and ergonomic admission of the wounded. It has an interior height of 1.35 meters, a protected cell volume of 11 cubic meters, a potential for kit weight is 2 tons, and the total weight is 12.5 tons. And it has the same level of protection and mobility as with all Dingo 2. And the emergency vehicle With the Dingo 2 emergency vehicle, the isolation, treatment and transfer of contaminated people is possible for the first time, in addition to the highly protected transport of the wounded. It has a personal supply chamber, and it has state-of-the-art emergency equipment based on decades of experience in aviation medical emergency care. It has space for 2 lying patients. It has a protected cell volume of 13 cubic meters. And of course, there are the normal stats from the manufacturer. The length is 6.285 meters for the emergency vehicles and 6.332 meters for the ambulance vehicle. Has a width of 2.39 meters. It has a height of 2.88 meters for the emergency vehicle and 2.615 meters for the ambulance vehicle. The weight is 12.5 tons. The engine power is 163 kilowatts, and with all Dingos, the range is more than 700 kilometers. And of course, it also has the protection against mine, ballistics, ID, and NBC. But there are some more general features according to the manufacturer. It has up to 4 crew members, not the usual 8. It has a passive all-round protection for the crew against mine, shelling, and booby traps. Those are the IED. It has a maximum payload in the unprotected functional space, and it has a high level of off-road capability thanks to the unique structural connection of the safety cell to the chassis, while retaining the chassis frame's torsional flexibility. And if you want to know more about interesting military technology, you'll find my next video right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.